Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is covering the tournament. He happens to be walking through the village today, so we waved him on over as he covers the tournament. He also covered the Sixers for most of the season here, so we got a lot to dive into. Michael, how are you, pal?
Oh, very good, very good.
Tournament's going well. You've covered it many of years. This is, it seems like it's getting the crowds are getting bigger and bigger. We did the Pro-Am the other day. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think, I took a look today, and the green, the grandstand around the 18th green is filled, which for a Friday afternoon is not something you normally see out there, and usually see that on Saturday and Sunday. So this tournament continues to be, one of the real success stories in the South Jersey, Atlantic City sports scene, a sports scene that's seen a lot of things come and go. This is the 30th time this event has been held. I think it's the 21st time I've covered it.
Wow.
And, it continues to be a real solid event here that draws fans, regardless of who's in the field almost. The field is, okay this year,
yeah.
and it really hasn't affected the crowds
at all. It's interesting
you
say that. We almost said, like, the people who are here, not to take anything away from the players, but they're almost less interested in who actually wins the event than being a part of the event.
Right, and I think also they have players that they like to follow. Like there was a big crowd around Natalie Gulbis this morning. Paula Creamer has a big crowd. It's almost like they've got fan favorites that they love to walk with and follow. It's almost like there's two events going on: an actual golf tournament and a fan favorite event there.
Now, Mike, you covered the Sixers for most of the season here, and as a writer and a journalist, this has got to be a story that just, this Colangelo thing has got to be something that, like, if this fell into your lap, if you're Dietrich, what are you doing?
You're probably looking up and thanking the stars. And I heard about that. At first what you do is you probably say, there's no way this is true. You probably say this is crazy. But, credit to him, and the Ringer did a great job as far as breaking it down. And it turns out to be an unbelievable story. A story that I get kidded all the time. Usually happens to the New York Knicks or something. You wouldn't think would happen to the Philadelphia 76ers. At the same time, it almost has that sort of Greek tragedy element of, the guy's wife tweeting out to defending him. And, who knows if, Brian Colangelo, Jerry Colangelo, Mr. NBA, almost NBA royalty, is Brian Colangelo ever going to work in professional basketball again? Maybe, but certainly not in the capacity that he was with the Phoenix Suns, the Toronto Raptors, and the Philadelphia 76ers. So it's got that Greek tragedy element also.
Well, and the whole scenario of you have this cult hero, Hinkie, that people just revered so much. He basically gets shoved aside for basketball royalty, and then the royalty goes and basically puts egg all over the face of all of these. He's the basketball guy. They finally got this guy in. They got this Hinkie out of here. All he wanted to do was acquire assets and lose. And it's always going to be this question mark of how was that story going to end? And
right.
It's just the most unbelievable. I find it to be one of the more fascinating sports stories that I can think of.
Well, I think that's the part of it that drives the Hinkie devotees crazy. And in a way, the Hinkie devotees drove Colangelo and more specifically Colangelo's wife nuts to the point where she did some things. You're never going to know, and you can debate it from now to the end of time, whether or not Hinkie would have brought a championship here. And it seems like there's no in between. There's people who say you're either all in on he was creating an NBA dynasty, or you're in and saying he was a complete farce. There's no down the road.
No,
basically.
and you and I have had many.
You'd bring Hinkie back?
No, I don't bring Hinkie back at all.
You and I had many battles about this, on where they were going and how they got here. Now, we didn't agree on a whole heck of a lot, but I do know that you have kind of changed a little bit of, all right, they're better than I thought they would be.
Well, I think they've got, my view on it was always that it wasn't the original idea. I think they just gave that other teams had done it. Other teams had done it successfully. And I just thought they hung a nickname on a rebuilding project and had sold that to the fans. I do think now they've got two generational type players in obviously Simmons and Embiid, but I think when you look at them this offseason, that's why the Colangelo thing is so crazy happening now. I think they face a pivotal offseason as far as going forward. because I think they've got to, they've got to fill a hole or upgrade at shooting guard. I think they've got to upgrade at small forward. I think they've got to upgrade off the bench. I think they've got to look at a veteran center off the bench, shooters off the bench. I think the power forward position is one that you could debate. Is Saric a six-man, or is he a starter? So I think while they've got those two players and they won 52 games and went to the second round of the playoffs and play a great, entertaining brand of basketball, I think they've got a lot of work to do.
Well, I think that just shows where the league is, because if the Sixers have a lot of work to do,
right,
what do you think all the teams below them think?
Right.
So, I mean, I would go back to, you mentioned, he asked you about Hinkie. I would imagine if I was an owner, I would be asking that, I would have that guy sitting in my office and picking his brain as to whether it was your ideas, did you steal them from somebody else, did the owner come up with this? Because if I'm every other team essentially other than Philly, Boston, Houston, and Golden State, I'm figuring out, how do I get to where those four teams are?
Right.
You got to admit that the Sixers are at least in the top 5 of franchises that are
right
most
now,
desirable.
Right now, they're in that group of probably 5
or 6.
I would
in the
throw.
NBA? Everybody tries to emulate those teams.
I mean, I would throw New Orleans in there as a team with a lot of potential. I might even throw Milwaukee. Did take Boston to 7 games. They've got the Greek Freak. So I think the Sixers are in that group of 6 or 7 teams. And obviously, when you look at the NBA, it's really until that one team breaks apart or does something, because they can flip a switch and blow any team out that they want.
And we all know that wherever LeBron goes, that team's changed.
Right, that's going to be the change too.
Like if he went literally to Brooklyn, they'd be a contender.
Right. But my other thing about Pete asked to bring back Hinkie, to me, there's a reason why Hinkie has not gotten another job. Now, some people will say,
why do you think that is?
I think because I think people look at the players that he picked. Maybe they don't love his player evaluation. When you look back at a lot of the deals and some of the draft choices, Jahlil Okafor instead of Porzingis, for example, they weren't great.
What about what Harris said
interpersonal
yesterday?
skills too?
Well, maybe that has something to do with it. I mean, it is a business. It's an office. You've got to function in a world. You have to function in an office. I've got to function in an office. I've got to respond to my bosses. Maybe Hinkie didn't do that. Hinkie's got to interact with the media. Maybe he did that. I just think if he was so effective, I think people in professional sports are so desperate to win that if he was that good, another NBA team would have hired him.
See, I'm
and I don't buy the thing that he's blackballed by the NBA. The NBA fears him or stuff like that. I don't buy that thing. I think, look at some people who have been general managers in the past. If they think you can win, they're going to hire you.
Which is amazing. That's why I'm so shocked and think that there has to be some sort of agreement of, look, we had to step in to get this guy out. I don't want anybody touching this guy. If Ed Stefanski can get another opportunity and Billy King, you're telling me that other teams wouldn't say, hey, this thing worked for Philadelphia. Let's give this guy a shot. No, they went with Ed Stefanski.
I don't buy the fact that he's blackballed or whatever. I just think maybe they don't like how long it took. Maybe they thought some of his player personnel decisions.
Being realistic, how long it took. I go through this argument a lot with people. The reality was, okay, it really took about 2 years. People say, well, it took 5 years. When he got the job, they were already bad. People were acting like they were on the brink of an NBA championship. They didn't make the playoffs. Well, they were already bad.
Right. They were crushed from the Bynum trade, but it took 5 or 6 years to get to this point.
Well, you think about it. The first year,
and if you're a 70-year, it's one thing for us to sit here and say it took 5 years, but if you're 70 years old and you're a Sixer fan, it's 5 years a long time.
But hear me out for a second. They were already bad when he got the team.
Right.
So the first year, he rolls with Evan Turner, Thaddeus Young, Spencer Hawes. That was the team that he inherited.
Right.
He started the season with that team. They didn't tank. They were horrible. Once they were horrible, he said, all right, that's enough with these clowns. Out of here. The next year, they were tankingly bad.
Right.
They win 18 games. The next year, they win 10. The following year, they go from 10 to 28. If Embiid doesn't get hurt, that team's probably an 8 seed. So realistically, there was those 2 years where they were purposely bad. The year before that, they were already bad, and the other year they had beaten Saric.
Yeah,
it was really 2 years that they
I come back
tanked.
to the point. I think people look at the moves that he made, and the personnel moves that he made were 50-50. Now I know that people say that is part of the process, that you are so bad for so long that you get enough shots at the number 1 or number 2 pick, you pick your Jahlil Okafors who are bombs or busts, and you also get your Ben Simmonses. So I understand that that's it, but I can't see. Maybe there's an owner out there that would like to do it quicker. I mean, I think, and we've argued about this before, the Boston Celtics have kind of executed the same thing, and they seem to do it quicker than the Philadelphia 76ers did.
You know, look, the Boston thing is a unique situation that they found a team that was literally – the Sixers had to deal with multiple teams to get to what Boston got from one team.
Right. But I'm also talking about the Boston Celtics have almost done it twice because they did do it with the Garnett-Allen group. They won 18 or 19 games that year, got some young players, turned those into Garnett and Ray Allen to join Paul Pierce, and then won an NBA championship.
Keep this in mind. Boston did it quicker.
Right.
Got swept out in the first round in their first season. Got beat in the first round in their second season. You could make the argument that Philly kind of has passed where they started and are on their heels.
I still think Boston, and Brett Brown has said that the current Boston Celtics we're talking about, the Boston Celtics are going to add Kyrie and Gordon Hayward to a team with Jason Tatum on it and Jaylen Brown. I still think Boston is ahead of them, and I think the Sixers have some work to catch Boston. Now, I don't know. I don't know if the distance. I think they're ahead of them. Now, obviously, you can tell me it was 4-1. I don't think they're 5 games apart because those games, the Sixers were up 20 in Game 2. If Marco Bellinelli steps behind the line like he's supposed to, they win Game 3. They win Game 4 anyway, the T.J. McConnell game, and they've got every chance in the world to win Game 5 in Boston. If J.J. Redick makes an open three-pointer, they probably win Game 5. So those games are right there. But still, you've got a Celtic team that has been to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 times in a row, has an emerging young player in Jason Tatum, and is adding 2 NBA All-Stars to it next season.
No doubt.
I think right now they're ahead of the 76ers.
Well, and the interesting part about where the Sixers are is everybody wants to write off Fultz. He's a huge part of the story, right?
Well, I don't write him off. But to be fair, almost fair to him, I wonder how much can we expect of Fultz next season. Like, I think if he's the second-team point guard and plays 22 minutes a night and occasionally has these breakout games, I think that's fair to him. Is it fair to him to come in and say, okay, you're going to start and you're going to do what Jason Tatum was at the end of the season? That's not fair to Fultz.
No.
He's only 19, and I'm not going to throw him away. But I don't know if he can be counted on.
This is like how many teams that win 52 games, add the number 1 overall pick, add the 10th pick, and have the most cap space. You don't see that happen.
They're in a good opportunity, but they have to have, to me, a big offseason because it's funny the way they look at them. They have 2 generational type players in Simmons and Embiid, both of whom have some limitations that need to be improved upon. Obviously, Simmons' shot. I think Embiid has got to get stronger with the ball in the low post and cut down on the turnovers. And then, I think
that's a good point, though, that the difference between them and Boston, too, is that the Sixers' top 2 players were both rookies, essentially, or making their first
and I'll give you another one in the Sixers' favor. Embiid and Simmons probably have higher upsides as far as being generational guys than anybody on the Boston Celtics.
Well, and that's what we just talked about off the air was you mentioned Kyrie, and I said I think the Celtics are good. I still don't think they're NBA championship good. I think they're still Eastern Conference Finals good. I don't look at Kyrie as the best player on the team that wins a championship. He's a number 2.
I don't. We'll
a high number 2.
We don't see. I mean, if you look at
we don't see that eye on that one, huh?
You see teams with 3 guys. They're 3 guys of Kyrie, Hayward, and Jason Tatum with what he was able to do this season. Those are a pretty 3 guys. Plus, you bring a guy like Jaylen Brown there and a bunch of other guys they have.
You get your first 3 choices, and they're the 3 you get. Kyrie, Hayward, Tatum, Embiid, Simmons, Saric.
I got to pick.
Which 3 are you taking?
I'm taking, like I said, I'm taking Simmons first, I'm taking Embiid second, and I'm taking Kyrie third. But that doesn't mean right now that the Celtics can't beat the Sixers, even though those 2 players, I'm telling you, those 2 players have more of a chance to be generational guys than anybody on the Celtics. But that doesn't mean next year the Celtics can't beat the Sixers.
And that reasoning there is why we would consistently have the disconnect. Because back 2 years ago, I would tell people, when they get Embiid and Simmons, when Simmons missed the whole year, and keep in mind, the process, I hate to use that word, but people say it took so long. Well, the injuries stalled it.
Are part of it.
It stalled it.
Part
it wouldn't have taken 5 years.
But, the injuries end up working because if Embiid is healthy, are they in position to get Simmons? Probably not,
Definitively not.
Right. So it is part of the thing. I just think when people look at it, my thing was that it wasn't invented here, that people hung a nickname on it, and the execution. There are people out here that you talk to, and we all know them, that think, and they're part of the reason, bring back Hinkie, bring back Hinkie. There are people that think Hinkie never made a wrong move. Every move he made was correct.
Right.
Every personnel decision he made.
There's a name for him, Hinkie.
Right. Every trade for a second round. Oh, he's got 18 second round draft picks.
Well,
it's spectacular.
Here's the one thing about some of those trades, though. A lot of them just kind of got pushed away, but many of them that got overlooked was, I'll take JaVale McGee back in return.
Right. A lot of them were.
And guess what? Because of all those deals, we're talking about the potential of LeBron James because they have the cap space.
Well, and that's the point.
That gets lost in the sauce a lot.
If they don't sign a LeBron, if they don't bring a LeBron, a Paul George, or a Kawhi Leonard here, are the fans disappointed?
Do you really think they're not going to get one of those guys?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility they could.
You think they're going to go 0 for 3?
I think they could go 0 for 3. Suppose here's.
I'll give
you a scenario where they go 0 for 3. San Antonio has Kawhi Leonard under contract for another year. They don't trade him and say, hey, just play out the year or something, or they see how it goes. And then LeBron James goes to the Lakers with Paul George.
I can see a scenario where they miss out on all 3.
And if you miss out on all 3,
then what's the process?
Then what are you doing?
Are you concerned that if they miss on all 3, that is it make or break this offseason? We talk a lot about it on the air. What do they need to do?
People have clumped the 2 off seasons together, this one and next.
Yeah, I don't think it's make or break, but I say, to me, when I look at their roster, again, I'll go back to it. I think they need an upgrade. To me, J.J. Redick is a guy you bring off the bench next year. So you need a shooting guard who can defend, a shooting guard who can also defend. I think you need an improvement. To me, Covington is also a role player. You need a guy at the small forward. Now that's LeBron James, Paul George, or Kawhi Leonard, a guy who could score. And then I think you need a bench. But I think if you get the shooting guard and the small forward pieces right, I think good NBA teams can. You look at LeBron's career. Shooters have always followed him around.
Absolutely.
Kyle Korver. And then I think they need a veteran center off the bench.
Jimmy Liner brought up an interesting point on our show. He believes that the mask was really an issue for Embiid in that playoff series.
It could have been.
I mean who would have known if he's 100%? He looked like he was out of shape.
Well,
I
think that's a point that people look at. Embiid, does he, because of some of the injuries, does he really practice a lot? Is he really in the best shape
but
he could be?
If he never broke the eye and he just played straight through without the mask, he would he be? He was out of gas in some of them games. He missed 3 weeks and then just got thrown back out there. I think that really closes that gap.
But even more to that, and this was a problem the whole year. I just look at his turnovers. When you threw the ball to him in the low post, he's got to be almost automatic to where he gets fouled or he scores in the low post. And too often in big games, they throw the ball to him in the low post, and he just creates too many turnovers in the low post.
And then that's the product.
And that's something he could get better at.
Product of not playing a lot of games. Yeah. I mean, that's a product of he's played very limited amount of games. And I think we all know the Simmons jumper. He's going to have to do something there.
See, I'm one that I'm not so crazy. I think if they get better shoot or better players, better 2-guard and better 3-guard, I think Ben Simmons can sort of survive with, I think he's got to take a 15-footer, but he doesn't have to
an elbow jumper.
Right, an arcsman. Because to me, he's almost like a quarterback. People lay off him, giving him the outside shot, and he just picks you apart.
I would like to see more of him backing defenders down, forcing a double, and then letting him pass out.
I thought in the Boston series that he wasn't as aggressive. It wasn't so much his reluctance to take an outside shot. I thought it was his reluctance to take the ball to the hole. I remember one game up in Boston.
Because he didn't want to get fouled and have to go to the free throw line.
I mean, he had the guy, the man bun. One-on-one on the left wing, and rather than taking 2 dribbles and dunking on him, he tried to throw a pass over the top to Saric, and it went out of bounds or something like that. I thought he's got to be more aggressive like that. And I also think if they get the one game they won where T.J. McConnell handled the ball, he was able to get Simmons the ball some in transition. So if you get a guy, a two-guard who can handle the ball a little bit, also take some pressure off you, like Fultz was maybe
they drafted a guy, right?
Like Fultz was maybe supposed to be.
Sure.
You can take some of that pressure. And the biggest thing I think they need to say, and all these NBA games, you looked at it the other night. At one point, Golden State just threw the ball to Durant, and Durant scored. Yep. The Sixers got to come up with a guy, and it's not Simmons or Embiid yet, and I don't know if it ever will be, that they can just throw the ball to 102 in the fourth quarter, clear out, and that guy gets
I
to
thought
the
the biggest surprise in that series was that they would go to Embiid and that Baines could guard him one-on-one.
Right.
Because he is a little limited in that low post area right now.
Right.
It's like he'd rather catch it on like left of the lane and take a little 12-foot jumper rather than take – now, it's not 1998 anymore where you just back your way to the basket and dunk. You know, it's not like he's Shaquille O'Neal.
But he should be stronger in the post in certain situations where they can actually, hey, we need a basket. We're going inside on this possession. But a lot of times that NBA guy, and Durant's 7 foot, he does it from the perimeter. A lot of times it's a guy you throw, or you saw it in the NBA Finals a million times. It's pick and roll. Okay, now I got to match up against a guy who's shorter than me, and I'm going to score on him. And the Sixers don't have that guy yet on the roster, and I think you need that guy to win close games, like the type of games they lost in the Boston series.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. By the way, we asked on Twitter, some Sixers fans during the process said seasons under Hinkie were embarrassing, winning only 10 games. Now the Colangelo Burner story. Which is more embarrassing, a 10-win season or a Colangelo Burner account?
You know,
I got to go Burner.
Yeah, I think the Burner thing is because it's so unique. You know, the Sixers lost 9 games in 1972, right? So you've been down that road before. I don't know if you ever had a GM's wife. I think it's just the most amazing thing is that his wife felt the need to defend him so much.
Hey, she's loyal, if nothing
right,
else.
Exactly. So.
And what did he reward her with? Run to the bus right
there.
He's in a no-win situation, though. Like, he can't trust his wife now. You know? You can't trust her. You were creating fake burner accounts and
just one of the
putting information that I gave you out in the public? What are you, nuts?
It's one of the unbelievable stories of all time. You know, it's one of the craziest stories of all time.
All right, Mike. Good to see you, pal. We'll have to do this more often.
No problem.
This
Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Mike
Mike.
McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City.